Alright, so continuing the exercise for Chapter 12 of Price Analysis, a fundamental approach to the study of commodity prices. We've got our crop reports loaded in here to Tabula, and now let's just go and extract that table for soybean expectations. I'm going to start here with the December report. Click Extract Data, and it pulls the report in here. Now, we could have tried to translate this first and figured it out from there, but since the word for soybean is pretty easy to recognize as soya, S-O-J-A, and I happen to remember that the soybean report is usually follows corn, we should be able to identify the soybean report fairly easily. Okay, here it is. In this report, it happens to be table 34, and comparison of area, productivity, and production. And already we have this little crosshair tool, and if I just go like this, click and drag, I'm able to select this table, and then the software knows this is the area I'm expecting a table to come out of. All I have to do is click Preview and Export, and it pulls the table in here. Now, it has to guess a little bit, and it has two methods for guessing. The first method tends to combine this 1516 and 1617 column, and that's not good. So I found that if I click lattice, it solves that problem. So some of these column headers get misaligned. We'll have to fix that in the end, but at least the data columns are appropriately separated now. So this is good. I'm going to say export, and this is going to go into my downloads folder so I can go get that later. Let's go back and get the January table. So January, extract data. Again, I'm just going to scroll down and search for that soybean table. It's usually right after the corn section. Here it is, table 35 in this report. So I'm going to grab this area, preview and export. And again, this method, the lattice method, works better. So I'm going to do that. Looks good. And I'm going to export again. And it's now in my downloads folder. I'll go do my last report. This is February. Extract data. Scroll down, look for soybean. There's the corn section. There's my soybean table, table 38 in this report. Okay, again, I'm going to choose the lattice method and export. Now at this point, if you go and you open up your downloads folder, you should see these files in there. Yours is probably really messy, but I happened to delete mine before I started recording this lecture. But anyway, you should have these three CSV files. We can open one up really quick and make sure that it looks like we expect it to. And it does. This is, you could recognize this as the basics of that data. And like I said, we'll have to fix these column headers because everything got pushed flush left. That's okay. We'll deal with that in a minute. What we need to do next is put all of these CSV files into that folder that we created. And then we're going to use the command line prompt to combine these files into one. So most of you probably don't have any experience working with the command line. So I went and I found a couple of tutorials on YouTube on how to do this exact task. And it's a little bit different for Windows users versus Mac users. So there's two different tutorials there. I'm going to walk through our exact example for Windows users, but you should be able to easily modify the steps in Mac. I basically am going to be following this blog post here, following these steps. And those are the exact steps that are walked through in this YouTube file. So it should work out for you. Either way you want to follow along. So let me get my downloads folder in view here. Now to access your command line, you're going to, on a Windows machine, get into this little search bar here and just type CMD for command, and it'll find this command prompt app. And then you get this like hardcore coder looking thing. And what we need to do is we can see that there's a default directory that it opens up into. And we need to change the directory to be the one where our CSV files actually live. So the command to change the directory that it's pointing to is cd, and then we're just going to modify the path to be the right one. Now you can, if you click in the address bar, you can usually see the full link. So it's not too different. My current location is pointing to the C drive, users, Mallory M. And here that's part of this folder that I'm in, but I'm a little bit deeper than that. I'm in my downloads folder and inside this special folder that we just created. So I basically need to type in this path, C:\users Mallory M, and now I'm going to go into my downloads folder and into the ACE 427-chapter 12 folder. Okay, so now we've changed the directory and this prompt is pointing at that folder. So any actions we ask it to do, it's going to try to do it inside this folder. That's good. That's what we want. Alright, so the next thing, and all we really have to do, is step 4 of these instructions. We just type this exact command, copy space star.csv.allText, and it's going to do the job for us. So I type copy space star.csv space all.text. So what it's doing is it's looking inside this folder, any file with the extension .csv, it's going to paste it into a text document. So if I press enter, it's going to just do the job. And we see in this folder this new file appears. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Excel. And I am going to go and try to open this file. So here it already found it as a recent file, so actually that's an old one. Let me just browse to it. Here's my downloads folder, and here's this folder item. And you might have to select the all files viewer if that's not automatically selected. Otherwise it won't see this text document. It'll only look for Excel files. Alright, so it recognizes that it's kind of a text file and it needs to know how to exactly translate it into a spreadsheet. Since it's CSV, that should be easy. It's going to be delimited. We're going to click Next, undo the tab, put in the comma, and everything should be okay. Next, finish. Alright, so here is our table and everything is basically indeed okay. Except, as we've mentioned, that the columns are a little bit messed up. We'll fix that in a second. What I think we should do first is to delete these intermediate column headers. We won't really need that. But first I want to keep track of what report is what. So one thing to notice is there's nothing marked here in the table that tells us which table is December, which is January, and which is February, which could be a problem for us. But it turns out that when the command prompt joins these files together, it does so in ascending alphabetical order. So if we take a look at these file names, I have it sorted in order by name, and it's kind of clear with the A at the top. And that just so happens to put December, January, February right in the correct order because of the way these numbered dates worked. Because the 16 is here first, and then 17-1 is January, 17-2 is February. If it were a little more complicated, we might need to manipulate these file names as we downloaded them to make sure that they would be put together in the right order. That's a little bit more complicated task. So here, I'm just going to make a whole column of Decembers and call it December 16 and go all the way down until we start into the, ooh, that wasn't good. Okay, that's better. That copied the values. And then I'm going to do January 17, January 17, copy the values down to the next report, and do February 17. This is kind of just a safety measure so we don't get confused. Okay, so finally, let's just delete these intermediate column header values. Highlight the rows and delete. Highlight these rows and delete. Okay,